Well, hello and welcome to another recording of the Social Media Newsroom. We are back for more news, rant and raves about your favorite social networks. I say we because, of course, and I'm joined by social media expert Natalie Emily from Okoko Media. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. I am super duper, even more than usual, excited to be here today and catch up.
Yes, well, the reason for that is we have a special edition, you could say a special recording, because we're going to give our lovely friends a recap on Conversations, the Meta Business Messaging Conference that took place a bit more than a week ago now. And we're going to give you, all of you, a bit of a recap, a bit of our kind of advice about what to do about the fact that Meta, the artist formerly known as Facebook, is spending an absolute fortune on Instagram Direct, on WhatsApp for Business, on Messenger, and a new platform that will be revealed in a moment. But just from your perspective, Natalie, what did you make of the conference and what are the key takeaways?
So I really enjoyed the conference. I thought it was very well done. And you can't always say that about a social networks conference. I think the dynamism that was brought to the presentations and the variety of speakers was a really, really strong element. But for me, the core focus was, I guess, probably a spoiler in hindsight that it was called Conversations, but core focus all around messaging and all around those meaningful communications with customers, which is something that as a small business and within that small, medium enterprise world, we can get super excited about, because that is where we blow the big competitors out of the water. So for me, it was very much about taking a fresh look at things that we can do phenomenally well. We're getting new tools, new tricks, new strategies, but there's so much that we can do in terms of supercharging our own presence, and very, very accessible. So all in, great conference and lots to think about going forward, I think.
Absolutely. Now I've got literally 4 pages of notes, and I'm only halfway through some of those presentations. Now, typically for the social media newsroom, what you and I will tend to do is go around all the platform, give the update, and then we give our recommendations about strategies and tools and techniques to use. But we're going to let that one go for now. And what we're going to do is concentrate on what I'm going to call the essentials from the conference and then the actions that we should be taking, because literally, now, in the past, Meta would have a yearly conference called F8, and I would be looking forward to it because usually they would announce their plan for the next 12 months on the whole of the ecosystem that is Facebook, WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, even the AR/VR, Oculus. Everything was covered, and it was always so rich in announcements. Now, this one's only about the messaging platform, and to a point, perhaps we've been spoiled in the past. There wasn't that many announcements. It wasn't like you could just celebrate and crack the champagne every time. But what I will say, back to my 4 pages of notes, there's lots in there that is designed uniquely for the small business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. And nice to have, I guess, a bit of a break from that F8 where it is that full overwhelm of, oh my goodness, the future is super exciting, to, okay, these are tools that are coming in a tangible timeline that we can prepare for now. So a bit of a different take. Hopefully for F8 will be back next year, because I do also enjoy that very much for its forecasting, but a bit of a different one. And I do hope very much that they keep the conversations element of conferencing in the mix going forward too.
I hope so. I'm gonna put a bet. I mean, I don't like. I'm a sore loser, so I put 50 pence, no more, on the fact that F8 won't come back.
Interesting. You heard it here first, Paul.
But you think it's going to come back, so one of us is going to be right. But for viewers and listeners, leave us in a comment. Do you think, or would you like F8 to remain, or do you think that actually? I'm going to ask your reaction. One of the many presenters was lovely to see, where, as is often the case, Mark Zuckerberg does the kind of the intro, and then the different head of products and departments come and talk to us. But there was one of the gentlemen there that said that this is the next level of digital transformation for small businesses to literally wrestle and be competent when it comes to business messaging. Is it a bit far-fetched, or do you think there's some truth in that?
I think there's definitely some truth in it. And I think it's an opportunity for small businesses, and it's almost ours to lose. Basically, it's almost ours to, it's a guaranteed win unless we do this particularly badly, because we know, looking at all the data and all the stats, and I'm sure we'll mention a few as we kind of continue the conversation, but Facebook sees the power of the platform as evolving beyond something that is simply, like a traditional social network as we would understand it, to something that's far more immersive. A little bit like the WeChat model that we see in China, where actually it's a social network, but it gives us access to so many more parts of our lifestyle. So rather than just use that to see updates from brands, we can use it to transact with brands. We can use it to get notifications from brands. We can book things via the platform. I think they probably see that as they have the mass user base opportunity. So it's how far they can really sort of seek to take that. But the key bit here is very much coming back to that lovely soundbite of the immersive dialogue that we are able to kind of plunge our customers and potential customers into with our brand, and the fact that we can take them into a conversation or something that is an ongoing relationship. It's got an element of groups in it that sort of submerges them into something that you and I talk about a lot, which is giving your customers somewhere to hang out between purchases, creating that authenticity, that genuine moment of connection, and something that we have been referring to this year as a monogamous relationship with your customer. So actually making sure that your customer stays connected to your brand and your values, to reduce leak of them going anywhere else, and remove something that's a key trend in digital this year, which is the challenge of the tax of choice, where they've got so much diversity in front of them that almost it becomes a little bit paralyzing for how to make a purchase, how to book a service. So removing all of that, getting it nice and seamless, removing the challenges and the obstacles, and actually supercharging it, and the level playing field for big businesses versus medium enterprises versus small businesses. It's there. We can all do this. It's just who does it better. And the odds are in our favor for SMEs being able to win at this.
It was always my view and position that we've shared on this series time and time again, which is this is the weapon, if we use that term, for small businesses. This is the one that, unfortunately, and I think that was a tone of the message of conversation, that is underutilized. And because it's underutilized, we, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and small teams, we can be guilty of the number one crime on the interweb, which is under communication. We are literally not giving people parity between, if they met you face to face, what would you say and how would you make them feel, and the same with the online stuff. So just very, very quickly, for those of you who didn't attend or watch on replay, there was the keynote. So that's what they do. They do a quick summary. Can I just say that clearly Mark Zuckerberg has a very limited wardrobe, but he probably saves a lot of time in the morning choosing what to wear. Unlike me, where I've got to choose between my 35 different waistcoats, he must get on with work very, very rapidly. Sorry, Mark, but I'm sure he's got a sense of humor. And then you had the tracks. You had the developers track. So one of the announcement was the WhatsApp API being opened up for people to actually design amazing services from WhatsApp. And you had the small business track, I focused on that. And you had the enterprise track for the big brands and high street, kind of retailers. You mentioned some stats a moment ago, and I'm going to read out a couple that I've written down. So according to research done by Meta, so we must obviously allow some form of bias, but in a good way, 74% of consumers discover new products on Meta, and 86% will do a purchase if they can have a conversation with that business, whereas only 55 will discover a new product via search engine results. And of course, there's no way which you can have a dialogue to the degree that you can. So that was one, and I've got a couple more. Yes, 77% are more likely to purchase if they get a swift answer over messaging, was a stat that has been recorded, and there's plenty more. So it's on it's over this 50% mark of behavior being positively influenced, because the sentence that I love from one of the tracks was, your customer needs something from you to make the final decision. And I think it's back to this idea of the limitation of the website, self-serve on the information. It's a limitation sometime of other ways which you can communicate. But if they get the answer from you to make final decision, they're more likely not only to buy from you, but to become a very loyal customer.
Absolutely. It's creating that sort of value transaction, because by asking the question and receiving a meaningful answer, that customer has already become a customer of your business in their mind, because they've transacted on that. Even if it's simply asking a question, getting an answer, they've I guess gone to the effort of getting something of value from you. Therefore, it's easier to convert. And oftentimes we do forget that customers, if you are discovering something through social media, you may have one or two questions. It could be as simple as what the delivery time is, because you've spotted it and you think it'd be a great present for someone. So it could be a very, very straightforward question, or it could be a very complex question in terms of the actual application of that particular product or service. But any time that we can get that additional reassurance, it will push us further down that sales funnel, because we're getting that information that we need. And again, creating that authority, creating that customer and kind of service provider or retailer experience, even if no money has yet changed hands.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to share with you, viewers and listeners, what will be possible very, very soon. But before we do so, final reaction from you from the keynote, in particular, the address. There was this idea of click to message or click to have a conversation is almost the only call to action that matters today. Number two, Meta Business Suite is being updated, so you can literally run your messaging from the same dashboard that some of you will have already running your Facebook, Meta campaigns and advertising. And finally, messaging via an existing platform like WhatsApp for business is so important that even Uber in some countries have bypassed their own kind of app, and they're allowing people to use WhatsApp to use their services, which I thought was quite something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the sort of do those in kind of reverse order. The final stat is absolutely groundbreaking, because you think that for such a big business such as Uber, where there's no issues of kind of trust or authenticity, because people are very, very familiar with that as a brand. Therefore, if you are looking to book an Uber, you would assume that the natural kind of course of action would be to go to the Uber app and therefore to use that. But to actually see in emerging kind of testing, I believe it was India, the case, the example that they kind of promoted, it was actually using the kind of Meta suite rather than the Uber app to bring that kind of, I guess, that easy ride experience within that. But the data that they were giving in terms of actual new user acquisition was phenomenal for that particular example. And I think it's something where when it is so clearly case studied, it kind of, as much as it goes against what you might have thought as, no, surely Uber launch standalone, it has to make you sort of like step back and think about the power that is in those large platforms. And again, coming back to small business versus the big business, if this is something that big businesses are acknowledging, it's something that we as small and medium-sized organizations do also need to acknowledge. Whether we go along with it or not, we need to understand the opportunity and the benefits of kind of adopting some of these new tools and technologies and strategies versus the potential challenges if we do not evolve with this and we kind of stick to our kind of previous ways. Just shows that opportunity is massive. The Facebook Meta Business Suite, this has been the bane of our lives at Coco HQ for ages. So I'm really, really glad, because previously, prior to the conference, it has been mega glitchy. Personally, I've been the only one in the office who hasn't had access to it. So everyone else has been able to kind of get on and do full bells and whistles. And for some reason, mine just kept kind of defaulting to Creator Studio, which has meant a pain for everyone else, because we've been able to use Creator Studio first so I can access everything. And so we've been all upside down. almost minutes after the conference kind of concluded. My apps have updated. I'm able to access Business Suite in its full entirety. So there's obviously been a lot going on behind the scenes, and almost with the power of hindsight, it means that we can forgive all past indiscretions of it not working or being a nightmare and glitchy. And we can say, okay, we understand that because the platform has been live and it's had so much work clearly going on behind the scenes to get these tools ready for launch, you can see how actually this probably didn't stand a chance of being able to work in any meaningful way as it's kind of ran. So really excited. The app functionality is loads better, and we have seen that there is huge opportunity in kind of evolving from the previous publishing tools onto the new system. Can you hear squeaking?
I can. We can all hear squeaking. You must reveal what it is. Is it your dog with you?
Luna, come here.
Oh, we have intruder on the set, but the most welcome intruder for dog.
Sorry, we have Percy Pig. But you can guess it's you're not going. You'll be too hyper. Right. Come here. You come.
So your dog was playing with Percy Pig.
She's in a very playful mood, so I'm not going to pick her up because she's going to make me chase around the office. I wonder if I can just kill you.
Yes.
Luna!
Well, if you're lucky enough to watch this on video, the cutest dog ever.
Sorry about that.
You should have started a business selling, toys and accessories for dogs, and you can try out those different techniques.
It would be good. She would love to be a model, but Percy's going to sit up here with me for the rest of the recording. I thought I'd confiscated everything squeaky, and I just haven't. I've missed him.
She probably hid it from you. So very quickly, in terms of so it was a conference about announcement, but also their practical advice. And I would say that's the difference with F8, which was all about announcements and cheering and, well, you know what Americans are like, shouting awesome and cool all the time. This one, I felt like I was, well, case in point, my notes again, I was learning a lot. So in addition to the keynote addresses, then they had on the small business track modules, if you will. And can we just also very quickly say, actually, from the production point of view, those pre-recorded and live sessions meshed together was really well put together, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I think it allowed them to do everything that they needed to do to keep it running smoothly and to make it feel like it was very in the moment, but also give them the benefit of, you can do multiple takes and you can ensure that it's shot well and edited well and that it all makes sense and things pop up at the right times. So yeah, absolutely. It was very, very nicely kind of put together. And it translates well on the kind of catch up, because I watched most of the sessions in one go, but for a lot of the small business tracks sort of dropped in and out amongst doing other things. And because I guess each module was so well put together and comprehensive, it meant it was very, very easy to pick up and put down.
Yeah, and for me, I was taking screenshots on the slide to go, I'd use that for my training course. I'd use that in the client meeting as well. So they had a module which was around get more potential customers, and that was one. Second was to turn potential customers into sales. Number 3, stay top of mind with customers, all this using business messaging and conversation. They had a panel discussion with people using business messaging. They had also 2 deep dives, one on get the most out of Messenger and Instagram Direct, and one on WhatsApp business app. And then they had 2 extras, almost like your bonus, kind of for the DVD box set. They had 2 sessions on the business, on the Meta Business Suite dashboard, which I thought was very nice of them because it would be new to a lot of people. If we start with get more customers, potential customers, well, I thought was interesting. There was almost like a tutorial where the advice was for everybody. Number 1, of course, establish a presence within the Meta, platform. Then encourage people to connect with you using your post and your messages, and then support your activities with ads. Now, there's a couple of things I learned in there in that get more potential customers via video messaging. So the idea being that you're going to be creating very clear call to actions, that to have a conversation with you and to ask you questions, it's the norm for you. It's not an add-on. It's not an afterthought. It's very, very important. And they're saying, play with the different kind of keywords, send message, have a chat, ask questions, and so on. One thing I didn't know is that you could also encourage people to use the messaging service via email and text by using short links. Or I've forgotten about it, but if you want people to get in touch with you on Messenger, m.me, if you were to click on that, it would open up your Messenger. You've got ig.me for Instagram and wa.me for WhatsApp, which I thought was brilliant. They've got the website plugins. They've had them for a very long time, but I think that's the first time that they've really made a big thing of it. And of course, they have QR codes.
Yes, well, I mean, QR codes are definitely having a moment, I think. But yeah, the sort of the kind of .me kind of short links, they were around and were having a little bit of a moment, maybe about 2019, 2020. They launched them on things like your Facebook page, and they made them super visible. Since then, they have kind of, like, I guess, scaled them back, and they're less prominent. But I think with this development, it's going to actually look at organizations that are putting a lot of effort into their messaging strategy, how they can then roll that out onto other platforms, like having the plugin for the website. Like if you are sending an email, could you have a live chat link at the bottom? So rather than send emails back and forth, if the event is a customer or a colleague needs to just jump on and message, is that going to be a much quicker, kind of more streamlined experience? I know one of the key stats was around businesses that respond within 5 hours or under. And I believe the number they get was their messaging was 380 times more valuable. Which is phenomenal about the immediacy and the opportunity of I know it sounds cliche to say, but actually having a conversation rather than something that is more of an email exchange where you write something, then you wait, then you get something back, and then you're sort of picking it up and putting it down. So there's definitely power in having that fully immersive experience. For me, almost the click along live element of change the call to action on your page, which I promise you most businesses will have as visit website, because that's what's on ours, that's what was on a lot of our clients, and changing that to actually send message, I guess it works in two ways. It reinforces the importance of being able to have customers easily reach you, and secondly also really showcases how important Facebook is going to place messaging on the platform versus leaving the platform to go and do other things. So really telling. And I did actually really enjoy the click along element of it. I thought that was quite new. It was just enough to actually be able to do a meaningful task and feel like you've done something in that presentation style, without it kind of getting bogged down and people are on different versions and the click becomes difficult, or you've been looking at your phone too long and it kind of then you're also sneaking in your emails. As I know, anytime you do anything live and you let people go onto a kind of screen, you always run the risk of a little bit of leakage as they get absorbed in their text and WhatsApp messages. So really great element, and I like that was actionable and straight away. I think it really showcased how important that's going to be as a subtle change that will take you seconds but might actually make all the difference to your messaging strategy.
Oh, indeed. And it felt very easy, but it felt very accessible. And you felt that if you have this desire to once again be helpful, be approachable, and back to this time I mentioned a moment ago, they need something from you to make the final decision. You need to make yourself available. When you move on to the second module of that, which is turn potential customers into sales, very quickly they said, so you're going to start by literally having the systems, but please understand we don't expect you to always be present live and answer live. And we, Meta, have introduced so many options around automations and almost pre-recorded and predetermined messages that are going to make your life easier. So again, I'm going to go through my notes and you get your reactions. So what they were saying is the way this is going to work business messaging is because it feels like a thought out experience. So you're not winging it, in the moment. You literally would have spent time with people like Natalie or myself or whoever your consultant is with Post-its to kind of, map the journey. Natalie loves good customer journey mapping. And as a result to which you'll be able to position some of the things I'm about to list for you. So firstly, you can create in advance FAQs, very much like you would have on a website, but it is within the WhatsApp, the Messenger, not yet Instagram platform. So more like a self-serve type things where you know what the top 5 questions are. You might as well answer them and that people can pick. They could also click on action buttons within the Messenger platform, create an order, send me a catalog, call me back. So all the things which are very, very appealing because they have that kind of very simple design element. One thing that I thought was absolutely brilliant was if you want to be answering live, you can actually pre-write some of the answers, and literally you can call those pre-written answers by just typing one word like opening hours, and then your paragraph that you wrote a few days ago is there for you to then agree to, and it would be sent automatically. The one that I thought was fantastic in that kind of turning customers into sales, that you could record in advance voice messages, but a number of them, not just a one. And then again, against keywords and the kind of machine learning and AI, the people would listen to the right keyword. What else did that pick up? Or if you work as part of a team, you can also assign specific question and conversation to different team members. I thought, well, brilliant. You can create a full-blown catalog with pictures and descriptions and so on, and link that to messaging. Of course, you can then offer a live video call or a live phone call via WhatsApp in particular. It's been very popular. And you could also let people almost by reacting to your messages get automated thank yous and so on. And I reckon there's 2 or 3 in there that I've missed as well. That is a lot of work behind the scenes, as you mentioned, to make it possible for small business to scale up their business messaging using automation.
Oh, completely. I think the whole suite of those features becoming available, and we have seen, depending on certain ones, there's been a few little sort of teasers. For example, we have things where if we're responding on a client behalf, you will put a very samey message in. And Facebook did start a couple of weeks ago just prompting us saying, yeah, you can save this message, not to the extent that was then showcased, but this is obviously something that they've been working on quite a lot, and they have done a lot of research with the phenomenal amounts of data that they will have about how small businesses react, which is, I guess, probably 90% of the questions that come through your page are of 1 or 2 or kind of a few more, but a limited number of set types, because most customers will have the same types of kind of questions depending on the type of retailer or kind of service provider that you are. The fact that it's going to allow these tools to be almost human controlled and real life conversation led is something that we've seen as a bit of a pivot from where some of the automated kind of AI responses of, well, you'll only need chatbots and chatbots will take care of every eventuality. Actually, the idea of being able to control the conversation from the start, have an appropriate level of either automated messaging where it is answering very, very straightforward questions, or fingertip availability of being able to type that one word and pull out your nice kind of changed reply, even if then you make a few little edits to make it just super personal to that exact customer experience in real time. But I think that is far more accessible to small businesses as something that they can steer, automate to their I guess convenience level, but still be very, very much in control of it. And it gives, I guess, the best of both worlds to the customer. So for quick, easy answers, they're able to get those in a very, very timely way. But for the ability to actually have a real meaningful conversation and jump in and feel like you are in charge of that, it offers, again, just huge opportunity. Even things as simple as those automated outside of your business hours messages can go a long way. So do definitely make sure you've got those set up if you receive a high volume of messages outside of hours, just to manage those customer expectations. Even if you do then kind of pick them up earlier than the automated message says that you will, but just having that immediate response time will definitely take a lot of the pressure out of that, and often make the difference between whether that customer experience is excellent or whether it's just okay because they got an answer the following day, or whether it's they felt that they were kept updated and they are super happy with the quality of service received. I think it's really clear clear. And one of the key phrases they kept saying was opportunities to delight the customer. And a robot never really delighted anyone. A bit of a kind of chat bot never really delighted anyone. We're kind of drawing on that experience of people buy from people and create that real connection and real moment in time with potential audiences.
Interestingly, on that very point, unless I've missed it completely, I don't think that chatbots were mentioned at all during conversations. The name of those very comfort, I think, is very, very telling about the thinking. What is exciting for me is, and I hope people are picking up, obviously, the tone of this conversation, literally, it has become, happily so, a customer service project or customer experience project. It's not tech project, it's not IT, it's not even just online marketing, because back to the customer mapping journey. So that this will be possible, but before you even go and launch into your Meta Business Suite, someone needs to sit down and think through the answers. Or my recommendation would be spend a week shadowing maybe your colleagues, listen to the conversation they have face to face, because that would be the spark for writing the Q&As, the FAQs, or even recording voice messaging. Now, in the past, I used to complain a lot about the examples that they gave at conferences, by the way, whether that's Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and the others, because it would seem, obviously it's very US centric, of course, but it would seem that all they do in the US is buy Snickers, go to the barbers or the hairdressers and eat, lots of different food. And, sometimes I think, come on, give me a real business to get into. But there was a moment where I was delighted because they had actually general example of the B2C and B2B. So with regard to the business messaging service, in addition to within that I've listed, there'll be the ability to buy, or at least to pre-order something as an item, but also to make and book an appointment for yourself. So if you're in the service industry, that kind of things, and I'm thinking, that I've got many customers who would love for somebody to almost book themselves into the calendar system. That would be very, very convenient for them, but also for their customers.
Oh, absolutely. And I think within that, even just the automated notifications as a reminder for your appointment
Yeah.
booking was a really cool feature. We haven't done anything around that type of notification system before. I know that it's still in development for the kind of diary compatibility. I think they'll probably have to do that at like huge scale, because when it comes to diary products, there's so many on the market that it would be quite a kind of, I guess, busy back end kind of opportunity to develop some cool tech, but quite labor intensive. So I'd be excited for that kind of coming out, but certainly the ability that you can have that into it, even if it requires a little bit of human effort to then kind of match that up with a kind of offline or off Meta diary, I think it would be a great opportunity. Definitely if you were giving away any type of consultation or something that, a lot of kind of, I guess if you're consulting for things, you might offer a free 15-minute initial call or conversation, those types of like rinse and repeat services, or, a masterclass power hour on how to do one particular skill quite well, and you offer them on kind of set afternoons. It's got to be a bit of a game changer for service providers, as well as more traditional services like being able to book a hair or nail appointment or barber's appointment, to use the very American example of it. Yeah.
The one I was thinking of, I recently had a conversation with a client about how difficult it can be to book guests on podcasts and that type of content effort. So that even could work for that. You have that exchange on WhatsApp with a potential guest for your YouTube channel, and they self-select the time and day as they would with platform like Calendly and many others out there on the market that are available. So very briefly, because time is against us, as always with the social media news roundup, when we look at the other modules like stay top of mind, the panel discussions, and getting the most out of the platform, was there any other key messages you were keen to share today?
Well, one of the things I thought they did, I don't know how I feel about it, but I thought they did a bit of other opportunity bashing when it comes to the digital space. So one of the key stats for the power of conversation and the kind of top of the mind awareness, which does make sense, but is something that Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp themselves are not entirely immune from, is the statistic that just 2% of shoppers buy on the first visit to a website. And this is for anyone who's run any kind of, click-based traffic generating ads. It's a challenge that that you get your fantastic product or service in front of a customer, you can get the click to the website, but then converting them from absolutely cold kind of lead in that instance to actually transacting and paying money through your website can be quite difficult. So I'm not surprised by that 2%. I think it possibly has a bit more variation in it than Facebook and maybe letting on, because perhaps if you are an unheard of retailer but you are buying something that the customer has heard of, like a pair of, let's stick with the American example, like a pair of Air Jordans, then you might have a bit more clout when it comes to like getting that kind of purchase through. So they wanted to do that, but also a lot of organizations and businesses and organizations like ours will run a lot of traffic-based click ads via the Meta family. And it's sort of like, oh, okay, I see the validity of the stat, but it is something that then sort of brings that problem almost at the Meta door. And I think what they did quite well for overcoming that was then to move us into the new suite of kind of Meta features around the idea of, to get that purchase, you've got to have the initial conversation. And they did a lot of focus on messaging ads. So moving from that click ad to the website, audiences in the driving seats, actually getting them into message where it becomes far more interactive. You can make recommendations interested in. And the key, I guess, kind of takeaway there was the upcoming feature of being able to send additional notifications to your audience, a bit like a mini email newsletter, where it's one click for customers to opt in. They were quite vague and sketchy on exactly what this is going to be called. So I don't have a hang my hat on kind of phrasing for it, because every time they seem to reference it, they seem to describe, as you know, Pascal, entirely what it is in its kind of, full end to end, rather than just saying, oh, and it's called our like mass message feature. It just seemed to be called the ability to message kind of anyone that's opted in. So one click for customers to opt in, opt out, to receive messaging and notifications from your business, taking them from a different place, from timeline where they might discover, from stories where they might be immersed, from reels. It's a new space to actually put in notifications, to send messages that appear instantly in inboxes on the basis of customers have opted in, and then segment your audiences so we can actually have different conversations and different notifications depending upon what our audiences are interested in. Now, this most closely aligned in my head to MailChimp, where you might segment your audience as to what journey they're on, and made it seem like it was a bit almost email marketing light, but through the Meta universe of apps. Now, they then went on to another slight platform bashing statistic, which is for email newsletters and email notifications, only 17% of them are opened, and only 1% of clicks, the click rate runs at 1% on those. Now, again, I thought that was a bit rich, because the average click-through rate for a Facebook ad is 0.9%. So interesting to sort of see those, well, it's kind of across the board elements, but what they were really focusing on with these new tools for being able to send these notifications was the ability to have that highly segmented, and then to send different messages within it. So even down to Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, knowing that when you send that notification, it might send it to an example of 500 people. Now, 250 of them might have never bought from you before. It will know that, or never bought from you before via the channel that this is going through. 150 of them might have purchased, but only ever purchase when you offer them a discount code. And 100 of them, or whatever the remaining amount is, may find that they purchase without a discount code quite regularly, because they see the full value in the product or service. Now, Facebook would then allow you to test different elements. So for your audience that only ever buy with a discount code, you can send them the discount code just to them. For the audiences that don't need the discount code, you can send that notification without including the discount code element. And for your never purchased before, you can beta test that audience where you might send half of them and half of them not. Now, it's really, really clever in terms of the going beyond that email marketing message where it might be a blunt broadcast to actually having a much more tailored and personalized approach to that segmentation, giving you more control of that data. But of course, as business owners, that data is never really your data. It's Facebook's data, Instagram's data, WhatsApp's data. So it essentially brings even more clout to the Meta system in itself, and almost gives the illusion for businesses of being in control of their own data, which is something that, admittedly, while doing a little bashing of click-throughs or emails, at least on an email system, you are collating your own database. So really, really interesting to see that. I think it will be a fantastic tool when it launches. It will hopefully be something that's used very, very responsibly, particularly if it's a one click to opt in, one click to opt out. But I think this is something where we're going to see a lot of businesses do it fantastically well and like absolutely soar with it, and I think we're going to see some do it really, really badly, but we are expecting it to come maybe fall this year based on what they were advising. So we're gonna have to watch this space. But yeah, I guess everything's up in the air as to whether this becomes almost that constant dialogue where brands can send notifications, which is just like a WeChat system. If anyone is really curious as to how that looks and feels, you can download WeChat now in the App Store. It is available. Obviously, you probably go on and very few of your friends, family, and kind of connections will be on there, but it will give you a sense as to how those features come together. And I guess a little glimpse into what the early doors of metaverse might start to look like for us mere mortals.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for this recap. And before we go on to your advice about where do we get started with all this information and the phased approach, all this brings us to the announcement they made about the latest addition to the Meta family, customer with a K, K-U-S.
With a K.
Yeah, customer with a, well, of course, if it's an app, you shouldn't spell properly, should you? So customer with a K, which is really, I'm going to say, an enterprise solution. So not necessarily for small businesses, although, listen, the definition of what small business is very wide, but all in one CRM and customer service platform where everything that literally you have, including integration with websites and Shopify and more, is available on the dashboard for you to essentially, I took it away as almost running half a mini call center, half obviously an online conversation kind of powerhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really interesting to see that, because I didn't even know that Facebook had inquired that. And then suddenly it was kind of front and center, and they did keep saying it, and the customer of the case, so they're very keen to reinforce the brand. But definitely I guess the opportunity to take a single view of the customer. We also thought it was really interesting because we work with a variety of different sectors that often have big spends on CRM systems. So it becomes a huge investment, simply storing, hosting, and facilitating that data and keeping it updated. Certainly for messaging integration, where you are able to put more notes onto a customer file, and within your labeling there, you can also label your VIPs. So if I guess one of the team picked up a message and it was from a customer they hadn't heard of but was a big spender, you can ensure that that is flagged on the system, so that there's not going to be any kind of faux pas, or they're going to be high enough up the priority list to be responded to in what they would consider an appropriate amount of time. So it's really, really interesting to see that, because it puts organizations that like your traditional Salesforce CRM software in probably quite a confusing area as to what the future is going to look like for them if Facebook is going to be offering this for free. And certainly one of the headlines around this is we're building it and it is going to be free to use, whether it's free forever or whether it's kind of free initially. But I guess for the fact that Meta will get the data, the old adage is, if you're not paying for it, you are the product. Whether that will really help with their kind of wider ecosystem, therefore they are willing to just take the hit on it, and actually we're all going to be using CRM systems that are based within the Meta family. I don't know, but it's definitely going to indicate a key shakeup of that sector. And it's not something that I would have predicted that Meta would be looking to go into that field. But when you think about it, when you step back with the value of hindsight, it actually makes complete sense of wanting that level of kind of audience data on there. So I guess it's just going to be a hell of a ride to see where this one goes.
No, absolutely. Before I ask for your advice on steps and actions to take away from to this session, Meta is clearly suggesting that for businesses out there, you're going to have a customer group who will never have a look at your website. They're literally, so I'm saying that Meta is on a mission to get rid of websites from the interweb. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there will be a segment of your ideal customer group that will only discover you via the Meta ecosystem. They will only deal with you via business messaging, and they'll be able to order and pay within that platform, and they have no requirements to go on your website, and then it would go parallel to those who hate social media that would love to go on your website, and then those who hate the internet who are going to jump in a car and come and see you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the idea of being where your customers are and tapping into their volume of users. So if you want to access that volume of users, you go through the, I guess, Meta route to market, and you play by their rules, which makes sense, I think, for where they want to take the platform. And perhaps this is a kind of early adoption of the metaverse, where we're all going to be able to kind of jump into simulations and, you know, kind of switch on to that. Whether it just wants to create our mass reliance on Meta as a standalone platform that we will use for absolutely everything, it makes sense. There will be those people that just aren't on social media, and we have challenges within that. So even now, as much as you think, well, this is for younger people, those age sort of 13 to kind of 18 right now, we refer to that demographic as Facebook nevers. They've never had a Facebook, and they probably never will. So it's getting them on other platforms like WhatsApp, like Instagram, to get them into that marketable category. So yeah, mega interesting to see, and maybe it will be the death of a website. I remember I was actually reminiscing with someone that I went to school with the other day about that sort of, like, you know, 2010 2011 era where every business suddenly needed to get a website for the first time. Oh, like, a lot of organizations will have had them, but that will be like your hairdressers, your dog groomers, those local businesses, something like that. Mass adoption of ensuring that you have that digital presence. Perhaps we are seeing something similar with this early stage messaging conversation focus on social platforms. Are you on the right social platforms where your audiences are? I know that's something that you and I say probably on a daily, if not hourly basis, Pascal, and then making sure that you are open for those conversations. It's perhaps a next evolution of web, as much as it is specific within that social networking space.
Indeed. And I'm going to take you full circle. I mean, someone could accuse us of planning these very carefully. Full circle to the statement that was, shared at the conference. This is a next level of your digital transformation, according to obviously Meta and people working there. Okay, let me put you on the spot then. Where do I begin with all this?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we've talked about are rollout, beta testing, but there is a lot that you can do today. So first of all, ensure that you have got the Business Suite app on your mobile device, or any mobile devices. If you also use a tablet, it's not just as simple as just having it on your phone. Pop it on everything that you use, and you're going to want to start to get used to using it. If you previously, like me, have not been eligible for it, you should be able to get it now, or if not, very soon. So make sure that you've actually got it there so you can practice. Second of all, do a little bit of housekeeping. So make sure that that call to action button on your Facebook profile is the message option, and make sure you've got that. Have a little think about whether you can incorporate messaging. I know we've spoken about, can you put it in your email signature? If you have a letterhead, is now the time to test popping that into your contact information? Would you like to put a live chat plugin that's owned by Meta onto your website? Have a good consideration of these and then start to familiarize yourself with it. Definitely, and I thought this was fantastic suggestion, definitely do your shadowing and do your groundwork now to understand what your FAQs might be for your audiences. You can build these right now within your Meta suite, within your kind of inbox features. So you can build your potential questions. You can start to look at, I guess, having automated answers and getting things nailed down and making sure that you've got a bit of a clear plan. Once you've done that, only once you've done that, make sure that you've got your product catalog up to date. Or if you are running shops, make sure your shop is functional as you would like it. Once that step is done, then move on to experimenting with your calls to action. So most calls to action for most organizations, certainly that we work with and that we sort of see on our digital journey, click here to visit our website to learn more. It's the traditional one. If you're recording a video, the call to action in the video might be, visit our website to learn more, the links in the post, or something as simple as that. Test out your messaging options. So just start to experiment with varying between that traffic call to action of directing people to your website to actually starting to instigate conversations and just see how your audience appetite goes. It's going to be a fantastic way to evolve your communications without suddenly switching every call to action. And the easiest way to get messages when you're asking for messages is give people something for them to message about. One of our most successful campaigns, and I do apologize that this is not a seasonally appropriate message, but one of our best campaigns for after sales for a car dealership was running a top secret discount campaign where you could message the page to receive a code, and upon that code you could book your vehicle in for a free winter health check. The picture was Santa in a sleigh, and if you message the page, the secret code was sleigh. I'm hoping that no one's still eligible for this promotion, otherwise we're giving away quite a lot there. And we were then able to measure the number of messages that were taken by the page and the number of inquiries and bookings that came out of that, where people were actually quoting the word sleigh, even if they weren't booking by message itself, even if they were just ringing to make a booking. Because audience usage, they will be a little bit wary about booking everything through message right now. A lot of the features aren't there, but you can test it. Have a little think, a little bit of a brainstorm as to what you might like to do. I would recommend probably do something a little bit sooner than hanging on for next Christmas. But can you do a bit of a giveaway? Can you bait this heavily to see, okay, if we went full bells and whistles, what's the best we could possibly hope for message engagement rate? And kind of work back. Make it interesting to your audiences. Don't be afraid to commit to the conversation. And my only final caveat on this would be, make the conversation happen when you are available. So if you are going for dinner at 7:30 on a Friday night, do not have your messaging call to action go out at 6 p.m. because that's going to create an entirely nightmare situation for your business. Have it where you can manage it in real time. So if you are available on a Tuesday evening, put it in for a Tuesday evening. Make that work for you. You can automate your posts, but you can never fully automate a conversation as a small business. So it's all about making these tools work, having a really, really good explore, getting stuck in at the deep end, but keeping it balanced with everything else. Because, unfortunately, it's not going to be a silver bullet, but it is going to be a fantastic opportunity for your organization.
Thank you so much. No doubt, I'll make sure that it's the timestamp means that people can rewind and listen again and take notes because of everything you've shared. And for me, I was thinking, okay, actually, what I could say to my customers is think, for example, about all the free resources and the downloads and the value add offers that you've got on your existing website. Except that some people just don't want to go on your website. So make the same offer within business messaging. So it's not as if you have to create extra work and resources. It's just that mapping exercise. And then I will add that I could see myself also giving the advice of, I tell you what why don't you create that experience for your existing customers? So don't worry so much about lead generation and business growth. That'll come later, but maybe do, walk before you can run. Why don't you create that business messaging service for those who know you already? They'll have obviously quite a bit of goodwill on your side. So if something doesn't quite work, they won't mind so much. And then once you're happy that this has worked well, you can then open up to your future customers.
Fantastic. It sounds like a great way to do it, take it on board from a B2B perspective, because often B2B is hard. It's so tricky. But a great way to repurpose and invest in that opportunity without having to do that huge amount of groundwork. Great for just getting that testing and the ball rolling, which is like half the battle, just getting started.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure to do this conference review conversation that took place on the 19th of May virtually. Once again, we need to take the hint. If Meta and Mark is investing so much time and money on business messaging, yeah, you could argue maybe there's a bias because they want more people to use their platforms, but they've got the data, they've got the behavioral insights that suggest that it is just something that people want. They need something from you, and they would rather have it via a conversation or be via tech platform, as opposed to having to discover things for themselves by self-serving on a website or trying to scroll through a week worth of posts on Facebook, Instagram, or another, and kind of discover for themselves what the answer is. So I have no doubt we'll be talking about business messaging a lot more in future episodes. But for now, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you again, Natalie, for taking part, for all your insights and wonderful advice. And for you viewers and listeners, please do share this video. I mean, share all of them, but this one in particular, I think is very, very important. Leave us comment suggestions and also questions that you'd like us to answer during our recordings of the social media news roundup. Until the next one, please go out there. Remember, it's called social media, so be sociable. Bye for now.